You're listening to the Practical Wealth Show with Curtis May.
All right, everybody. Hey, Curtis May. We're back again and for another episode of the Practical Wealth Show. And so we're going to talk about the secret to building wealth with real estate. Really excited. I have a special guest, Mr. Marco Santerelli, and he's the host of Passive Real Estate Investing Podcast. He's the founder of Norada Real Estate, a premier real estate investment firm. Marco's mission is to help people create financial freedom by taking the guesswork out of investing. His team is dedicated to researching top real estate growth markets and structuring complete turnkey real estate investors to minimize risk and maximize profitability. And just to give a little bit of background, Marco began investing in real estate at age 18 with a single townhouse that he bought, renovated, leased, and managed it himself. So he's done all the grunt work, right? And he continued to build a real estate portfolio over the years of up to 84 units with additional single-family houses, duplex, and small apartments. Marco's an expert in the ins and outs of real estate investing. He's been helping investors create wealth and passive income for the past 15 years through Norada Real Estate. And he was honored. In fact, I saw this issue. He's honored to have been named the 2017 Think Realty, which is a real estate investment magazine, Investor of the Year. Welcome to the show, Marco.
Curtis, I'm excited to be here. Thank you very much.
Yes, we're excited to have you. So what didn't I tell him?
That was a long intro. Thank you. Yeah. That was a lot to live up to.
I was like, wait, are you talking about me? Yes, we talked about me. Right?
No, it was great. I appreciate that.
So, I guess let's jump right in. So I guess I sort of said this, but you want to add a little bit more depth into how did you get started in real estate and what you think you've done to become successful that people could kind of model out there?
Yeah, I think I realized at an early age that to create wealth and passive income, you had to invest in real estate. Now, I didn't define it that clearly back then. But as a teenager, I looked around and I realized that people who were wealthy, whether they looked at or not, actually owned real estate and a lot of it, multiple units. And so I made the decision early on to invest in real estate. So when I turned 18 years old and I could legally qualify for bank financing, I jumped in and I bought my first rental, fixed it up, managed it myself, held it for a number of years. And, you could say that the whole transaction was textbook, but I did learn a mistake. I did make a mistake and learn that years later. And in hindsight, that was that I sold that property. Now, that doesn't sound like much because I walked away with a pretty hefty profit. I just bought the right price and I had, the market move in the right direction for me. But the reality is I sold this property. I took a big profit. I ended up paying tax on it, and I didn't reinvest it. What I should have done, in hindsight, this is what we know today, and what I teach you all the time, is take that equity and leverage it into more property, and you could do that quite easily and tax-free. So guess what? You could turn one property into 2 or 3, into 4 or 5, into 6 or 7, and all of a sudden you get to a point where you have enough properties that it's generating enough income for you that you're financially free. You're independent. Mm-hmm. So that's where I got my start in real estate. And then, I just continued to build on that, got my real estate license and added more properties in the early 2000s, and then started teaching people how to do it for free. And that's what we do today.
Tell them what, when we say turnkey real estate, what is that? How do you help them do that?
Curtis, that's a fantastic question, because the word turnkey is not, there's no formal industry definition of what it means. It's kicked around a lot and it's loosely defined. And unfortunately, a lot of people think that turnkey means rent ready. Well, I can go on the MLS. You can go on the MLS today and find a lot of properties that are rent ready, but that doesn't necessarily mean that, one, it's in good condition or great condition. There could be a lot of deferred maintenance items. There could be mechanical issues. They probably will show up in an inspection if you do that. But then the question is how much do you want to spend on it? And is it really, more of a fixer-upper? But unless everything is new or like new, it's not, in my definition, a turnkey rental. But then there's more to it than that. The question is what neighborhood is it in? Is it in an A, B, C, maybe a D-class neighborhood? Is it on a bad street? Is it on a busy street? Is it tenant occupied today? Is it cash flow positive? Is it professionally managed by professional full-service property management? And then, you step a little bit further back beyond the neighborhood. Is it in a good market that has growth and stability and a diverse economy, a diverse number of industries within that economy to float that market in good times and bad. So when you look at the big picture, that to me is what we here define as a turnkey real estate investment. And a lot of investors make, unfortunately, the mistake of just looking at the deal, looking at the property, and then looking at the numbers and saying, hey, that looks good and it looks great on paper. That must be a good deal. But a lot of times, they're surprised to find out that, damn, I bought in the wrong neighborhood, or I bought in the wrong area, or I'm going to have a lot of problems with this property. So,
right, because they're not from here, they're not from there. Let's say they're here in Philly or wherever you're listening to this from, but you want to buy in, and we'll talk about the markets, what markets, that how to choose to invest in. But unless you're going to go physically go there, which you can do, it's kind of like all those criteria. What industries are there? Are there jobs there? All that kind of stuff, because you got to have people that are working to pay your rent. I love that you take a, more what I call macro economic view. Yeah,
you have to have a holistic approach to it. Mm-hmm. You're in a good market in Philadelphia there. You have a lot of opportunity there. It's a great market if you understand the market. But the thing is, you don't need to be in Philadelphia, nor do you need to be in Indianapolis or Memphis or Houston or Jacksonville, Florida, or all these other markets that we're in. The whole model of being able to invest successfully out of state and knowing what you're doing is very easy today, because you've got the right team and you've got the technology that we have today. You could be anywhere in the world and you can invest in the U.S. and people do it all the time. People have been investing from countries all over the world in the U.S. So, but again, the question is, what do you want to invest in? Do you want to invest in fixer-uppers? Do you want to invest in turnkey rentals? Do you want to invest in just plain vanilla rent-ready properties? You need to ask yourself that question and then move forward based on the answers of that question.
So if you're thinking about, that's a really good point. So because I ask people like, what's, invest in real estate. Well, what type, what are your goals? Like, I think investing is a plan, and you need to have your strategy of what is it that you want to do? What do you want your life to look like? And then you, I call it in our terminology, pick the clubs, which are the products. I always tell people, it's like one of the analogies I use when I do a workshop. So it's, I got two things to give you, but you can only have one. I could give you if this you're going to play in the Masters, I'm sorry, and I have two things to give you, you can only have one. I could give you Tiger's clubs, or I could touch you on the shoulder and give you his swing. Which one do you have? Right. And so the smart is the swing, but most people are focused on clubs. Can I get a bit? Most in the financial world, all the companies are club manufacturers, and most people are club salespeople. And they will get, I had a guy just left my office, like, what do you think about REITs? I said, no. He said, what do you think about trust? I was like, trust? I said, why do you need a trust? See, that's a club question, but he's really talking about REITs. I says, well, I'm not wild about them, because, the fund manager makes all the money. You need to figure out how to get in stuff directly, but those are all club questions. But, I think you have to think about, the stuff you're talking about, the markets, the cash flow. Do you want to do small apartments, turnkeys? That's really more so about the swing. Tell me about I heard you talk about being market agnostic. Why does that matter? And how can anyone invest in the in the U.S. market if you're listening from out of the country?
Yeah. So being market agnostic just simply means that you're not married to any particular market. And the reason that's important is, if you're an investor and you have investment capital that you need to put to work for you, you want it to work as hard as possible for you and generate the greatest returns short-term and long-term. If you're married to your backyard and you listen to what the so-called quote-unquote gurus tell you, and that is to invest within a 1 hour or 2 hour radius of where you live, if you may be making a big mistake. Many of us, maybe most of us, but many of us live in overpriced markets, especially if you live in the coastal markets of the United States.
Yeah.
So that's very hard to find a good deal and to invest successfully in these markets. That's why we like the flyover states, the Midwest through to Texas and parts of the Southeast and parts of the Northeast. There's a lot of opportunity in those markets. So being market agnostic means you don't marry yourself to a particular market, because the U.S. is a very large country. It's made up of over 400 metropolitan statistical areas. And each of these markets, they move up and down independently of one another because of many local factors. So because of that, you have to recognize that there are times that make sense to invest in the market, and there are times that don't make sense to invest in a particular market. And you as an investor need to invest in the markets that make the most sense at the time that you're investing. So that way you're getting the best in terms of cash flow and growth potential, if that's, of interest to you.
Yeah, I hope so. How does one pick that or know good areas, or like when you guys are out researching, what is, if it's not secret sauce, how do you research that, or how would one begin to think along those lines?
Well, there's a number of variables, but it's not rocket science, and it's not secret sauce. In fact, a lot of it is just common sense. And the two biggest things that you should look for, this is kind of where you start, are jobs. Are there jobs, and particularly job growth in that market? You don't want a market where jobs are being shed. If you have stability in terms of jobs, and it has been there for a while, and it continues to grow, that trend is there, then that's a great market, because jobs bring people, and people brings demand for housing. Second is population growth, and that usually goes hand in hand with jobs, but not necessarily. And so if you have stability in terms of the population, net population, but more importantly, if you actually have positive net migration, guess what? That brings demand for housing. So when you have demand for housing, then if you position yourself in that market in the right neighborhoods, you can't help but to be successful. You're going to have positive cash flow, and you're going to have a good tenant pool to draw from. And so your investment will be stable, and it'll continue to grow over the years. So that's what I look for, are jobs, job growth, and ideally net migration, positive net migration.
Okay. And so, guys, even if you're investing in your local market, if you start to think like that, Philly might be is a good place for that. But, there's also other places. So, I like diversification, because real estate is very local. So I can see the idea of, not all your eggs in one basket when it comes to this. Is that one of the things that you think about?
You're talking about diversification here. Like I put most of my eggs in one basket, and that's the real estate basket. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean I don't have, other types of investments outside of that, but real estate is by far the best investment. But then within that asset class, I diversify by being diversified across different markets geographically.
That's what I mean. Yeah, geographically.
Yeah, so I may have a small portfolio or footprint in, let's say, Kansas City, and then I grow my footprint in, let's say, Houston, Texas, and then I, pick a third market. And you really don't need more than 5, but 3 to 5 is a good mix in terms of markets. And usually those are 3 to 5 different states.
Okay, that's a good point. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. That's what I wanted to know. When people are learning about this, and I always tell people, your number one asset is you. Right. And so you have to work on your mindset. How would you say that has contributed? Does that working with that contribute to your success and the success of your investors that you've been, working with?
Well, that's huge. The best investment you can make is the investment in yourself.
Yeah.
If you don't have the knowledge and the mindset to invest and to create wealth and to execute and know what you're doing, and assemble the right team to help you do the things successfully, because you can't know everything, then you're not going to be successful, or you'll be successful, but on a very slow pace. What you need to do is work on yourself, create knowledge. In other words, continually educate yourself. You should always be a perpetual student. Mm-hmm. And set investment goals. And I'm not talking about making a wish, but actually defining clear objectives and clear goals and breaking those down into tasks that you can actually execute on. And when you do that, you'll find that your chance of success increases about 90%. It's actually been statistically proven time and time again that people who set clear, specific investment goals become financially, I don't want to say independent, a lot of them do, but they are far better off financially than those who don't.
Can you give an example of, if somebody were looking at this asset class, turnkey real estate, how, let's say we're getting started, what kind of goals, a 3-year or 5-year goal, for example, that they could be thinking about?
Well, that's going to differ from person to person because everybody has a different, a different goal, a different why, a different risk tolerance, a different amount of investment capital that they can, use to achieve their goal. If you have a lot of capital behind you, if you have hundreds of thousands in savings, you're going to get to your income goal a lot faster than someone who's only able to save and invest $25,000 a year, which is typically one great 3-bedroom home, great 3-bedroom rental that we have, in terms of a down payment and closing costs. So it doesn't take much to get started or to continue building,
Right.
But someone's capacity to invest will dictate the speed that they get to their investment goal. So part of it has to do with you, and part of it has to do with your cash and credit.
Let's say they've got that, under 100,000 of capital. Think about like some clients I work with, with 25 to 100,000 capital, some of it in money, some of it in like self-directed IRAs, and they want to begin to build a portfolio outside of the stock market. Let's say I just want to give people how they could be thinking about this stuff.
So you're talking about, this is an example of a person with 100K. Is that what you said?
Yeah, so I have people with 50K, 100K, and I want to invest.
Okay, so let's use the 100,000 as an example because it's easy to do the math in your head. You could scale that down or up. If you break it down to a single unit, it's easy to work this way. A typical 3-bedroom home in a market, a good market like the markets we operate in, a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath is somewhere around 100 to 120,000. Okay, so now if you live on the coast, that might sound like a garage. It doesn't sound like a whole heck of a lot. But the reality is that a lot of America, middle America, 100 to 150,000 is where 3-bedroom homes are in most bread and butter neighborhoods, most bread and butter communities and markets. That's the median price of a lot of housing. Mm-hmm. So if that's the case, let's just take a $100,000 home. A 20% down payment is $20,000. Let's add a couple thousand for closing costs and miscellaneous fees for title and whatnot. And then let's put aside $2,000, maybe $3,000 as a reserve account, like your operating capital that you'll probably never touch it, but just for that first few properties, we're going to put some money aside. So we're talking $25,000 now. So you can get a great 3-bedroom rental for about $25,000 all in. Now, if you have $100,000 to invest, we'll just multiply by 4. Now you've got 4 of those properties, in your portfolio, and that $100,000 is now working for you across 4 properties, generating monthly income, passive income from those 4 properties, and you're growing equity over time because your loan is being amortized by the tenant paying it down, and over time. Inflation has shown us that you're going to get between 4 and 7% per year on average over the long term in terms of equity growth. That's just normal over a long period of time. So that's how you win in this game of real estate.
I love it. Yeah, I mean that's patient. You have a real asset. You get great tax deductions that go along with that offset your earned income. Can you speak to that a little bit that you see your clients are experiencing?
Yeah, we didn't even talk about that, but that's a huge benefit. The depreciation that the IRS allows you to take on real estate is incredible because you do not have to spend a penny or a dime to get that write-off, that tax write-off called depreciation on rental real estate. And you could do that for 27 and a half years. Wow. The IRS allows you to depreciate the improvements on your real estate over 27 and a half years. And what that does is it works towards deferring, reducing, and eliminating the tax on the passive income you get from not just the real estate, but all your passive income sources. So if you have income coming in from a portfolio of equities, plus you have a portfolio of real estate, well, guess what? That's all passive income. Well, you can apply that depreciation against it and lower or eliminate the tax impact. Now, I'm not a CPA or a tax advisor, but if you have a tax advisor that knows what they're doing, guess what? You may be paying 0 tax on that.
Code, you said code is another word for map and treasure map. So if you do what needs to get done, it's a stimulus program. And so we have to, I always tell our listeners that, that our economy is built for business owners and landowners, our tax code. And so we have to get in the game, so to speak, and play the game to win the game, not play the game in a sense where it just gives your money away to all the institutions that teach you how to play the game so they can make money off you. So you're somewhat familiar with infinite banking?
Yes.
which I've been trying to get local people to understand how to integrate those two things. Whereas if you can leverage, or we call collateralize, the equity in the life insurance for that $25,000 to start that ball rolling.
Yeah. I mean, if you're asking me if you can, yes, of course you can. And is it a good idea? Think of it the way I think of it. This is my thinking, is that if you have that $25,000 in a policy that you have access to, you already have the policy, the coverage from it. But now, what if you could borrow your $25,000? Borrow against it at a very low interest rate and use that to invest in real estate, where now you have essentially arbitrage. You're getting a much higher rate of return from the real estate than you are from the money that you're borrowing essentially from yourself. You'd be crazy to not do that. In fact, the question is how much can I do? How far can I take this?
That's right.
Because if you've got a policy and you're getting paid off that, you've got some interest coming in, and you're getting paid off that savings, and you could borrow it, and still get the benefit of that policy and the interest, and then use that to invest in real estate at the same time. Why not? Why wouldn't you do that? I would do as much of that as I could possibly do.
There you go. And see, that's it, because they basically work hand in glove. Your cash has to be stored somewhere. And, why not store it somewhere where you have control of it? You can make the money do more than one job. Well, let me ask you, how can people learn more about your work, and if they care to, how to invest with you? Because then you're in multiple markets. Tell me how Norada works, and tell our clients how to get with you.
Yeah. So, in terms of how we work, essentially we are think of us as a free service to help you get all the resources in the team to almost do it for you. Now, of course, you're engaged. It's not entirely done for you, but think about it as a entirely done with you model. Mm-hmm. So we have properties in 22 markets. They're completely turnkey, rent ready, cash flow positive from day one. And if you can acquire those properties and have the financing, the title company, the inspectors, the property managers, and everything you need to make that successful, so you don't have to go and search and find these people and vet them and make sure that they have a good reputation and they deliver on their promises. If that's already put together for you under one roof, think of that as the service we provide. So we will consult with investors, help them map out the plan to achieve their financial goals with real estate. And then once that's already clear and we have a criteria to follow, now it's a matter of just narrowing down the markets to one, maybe two, and choosing some properties within those markets, and then purchasing those 1-2 at a time. And you do that at the speed that's comfortable for you. And often that's just a matter or a function of how much cash you have to invest. Some people have $20,000 a year. Some people have $200,000 a year. So we help you do all of that from A through Z. It's a complete solution, and there's no cost to you, because like a real estate brokerage, we're compensated on the sale on the back end. And that allows us to not only be market agnostic, but allows us to be unbiased. So we're not married to any market, any property, any provider, any property manager, any type of property. It's really driven by you, the investor. What are your goals, and what is it that you're trying to achieve? That drives everyone's decision. So that's what we do and how we do it. And then I think your other question was, where can people find out more?
Yes.
So we have two websites. The core site where all the properties are at is noradarealestate.com. Norada, Norada. Pronounce it however you want, Norada, but it's noradarealestate.com. That site links to the other site. The two sites link to each other. The other one is easier to remember, believe it or not. It's just simply called passiverealestateinvesting.com, passiverealestateinvesting.com. And I chose that because it's actually the name of my podcast, Passive Real Estate Investing. So those two sites are chock full of free information. We don't sell any info product or coaching or mentoring, and people told me I should. I just don't. It's really just the free education up until the point where you're ready to invest. And then it becomes, okay, let's pick the right properties to help you get to your, whatever your financial freedom goals are.
Right. I love that. And because I think you got to educate yourself, and we're going to put all of those links in the show notes. and follow up. See, because what I love is that, a lot of people, like a lot of local realtors, they will give lip service to it, but they're very transactional. And so you need somebody that will, what I heard was that you'll work with them, help them create a plan, and they were going to use real estate as an asset class to build your financial independence or build your retirement or wherever I don't believe in retirement, but, build your passive income greater than your expenses is the goal. That's a process, and so you need somebody to work with you to help you do that. And it sounds like that's why I wanted to get you on the show, because that's what, we're talking to our clients about. And I want to give them the opportunity to, get around cool people and experts. And it gives me excuse to meet cool people and experts. And
with what you're doing, Curtis, it's for many people, it's a good connection. Like it's hand in glove with what you are doing and offering to investors. And then the question is, okay, well, now they've got this money working for them in a policy, and how do I put that to work?
Yeah.
Having a nominal amount of interest is fine, but what if I can magnify that, leverage it up? What if I can build a portfolio of real estate and then have all the benefits of real estate, the income, depreciation, equity, growth, the amortization of the loan, and the leverage that you can get in real estate that you can't in any other asset class.
Right.
Well, if you have all that and you still have the policy, why not do both? So they go hand in glove.
Yeah, that's why we call it, the and asset, because it's not real estate or insurance. It's both. And so now you're creating what we call velocity through simultaneous use. So you're creating, your money's creating velocity, but it's working, and you can make $1 do 3-4 jobs at the same time. And that's the goal. That's how you create velocity. So so guys, make sure you reach out to Norada, give them a call, check out, definitely check out Marco's podcast, and you'll learn a lot. You got any parting words for us?
Yeah, the most important thing is to take action. I mean, they could listen to all the podcasts they want, read all the books. We put out tons of great content, and we find that there's two kinds of people: those that actually make it happen and execute, and those that kind of sit back and watch things happen. So don't be the person that's watching things happen. If you want to do this, participate. Just reach out and ask for help. Ask questions and take action. You can make it happen. You just have to be the first person to take that. You need to be the person that takes the first step. So educate yourself. Yes. Set your goals. Yes. Listen to your show, listen to our show, whatever it takes, but take action, because until you actually take action, nothing happens.
That's right. I always tell people activity produces knowledge. Knowledge does not produce activity. So you do have to eventually, you can't read a book on swimming. At some point, you got to jump in the water.
I never heard that one before, but that's good.
So, Marco, listen, I thank you so much for your time and being a guest on the show. And so, guys, make sure you reach out and take action. You have to implement.
Thank you, Curtis. This has been a lot of fun, and continued success to you and your audience.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. Hey, thank you for listening to another episode of the Practical Wealth Show. Please listen, like, and share. Leave us a comment. Talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to Practical Wealth. To access the show notes and resources, go to practicalwealthshow.com. To get your questions on the show, go to practicalwealthshow.com. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Before you make any investment decisions, consult a professional. This show is copyrighted by Practical Wealth. Written permission must be granted before syndication or rebroadcasting.